Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It has been one tough day, and we are faced with tough circumstances that still obtain in Christchurch and Canterbury. Let me begin, and this is the third reading and therefore the final opportunity to comment on this bill before it is enacted into law. So let me begin by reiterating once again our appreciation to the government and Ministers Brownlee and Carter and Smith and others for their good intent and their cooperative spirit down in Christchurch during and after the earthquake and for that matter here in the House. But also our abiding concern, I suppose, in opposition, that we are always so squeezed by time pressure when legislation of this nature comes through so compressed. It has been a good debate, but we are left with the feeling that there has been insufficient time to properly work some of these issues through in good faith between parties. We do tend to emerge with the feeling that we are left with the crumbs of democracy that have fallen from the tables of power and are left to exit the chamber feeling that we have not done justice to the depth of significance of some of these issues. To that extent, we are not only dissatisfied, but we are saddened for the health of democracy in this country. It's a tough day, it's tough circumstances, and indeed it's a tough bill. It's a tough bill in the sense that it has far-reaching powers, and Ruth Dyson used the word draconian. She did not associate it with it. She said some people regard it as draconian. I have heard that word spoken on this bill independently of Ruth Dyson earlier today. Take your choice. It's a semantic issue. But let us all agree, and I think we do, that these are extraordinarily far-reaching powers that are about to be enacted. The basic attitude of the Green Party, as we said in the first reading and reiterated in the second and during the committee stage, the basic Green Party attitude to this bill is that it is excessive for the purpose. We do not deny the purpose. We share in the purpose. We regard the powers as excessive to that purpose. Some of our concerns have been allayed, and I would say to Minister Smith, I appreciate his explanations about the territorial application. We did in fact take his point in the first reading, and we had an SOP prepared on the territorial jurisdiction issue, which we did not submit. So we did in fact take on board the concerns from the very beginning. With regard to what I would call I identified 6 principles in the committee stage, going backwards as it were. The 6th principle of municipal transparency, the Local Government Official Information and Meeting Act. We appreciate the effort of the government to respond positively to that. That reflected an initiative on our part and shared by the Labour Party, and we appreciate the government's response. Community participation, whether there should be more city councillors from Christchurch involved. I hear the minister's reassurance that he's interested in a non-bureaucratic and a flat structure, and that there's mayoral involvement and so on. We hear that. I don't know that completely allays our concerns of community participation, but I think we're all agreed that there needs to be adequate local community participation. Accountability to Parliament, 24-hour rule that we were putting forward. We accept the ministerial explanation that there will be gazetting normally, although we still retain the preference that there should have been automatic reporting to Parliament under the bill. Mr. Speaker, our principal concerns, and they do run deeply, and I trust that the government acknowledges in good faith the depth of our concerns on these points. There are 3, and I think they do have constitutional implications. That the sunset clause, how long these emergency powers should go. Our preference was 6 months. We do not think it was beyond the imagination of the government to recognise that 6 months is a long time in a changing situation, fluid situation of this nature, and that they could have easily been renewed in that time. However, so be it, it's 18 months. It's still a finite time period, we acknowledge that. The two fundamental principles that we think are in severe jeopardy here is the limitation of scope and the issue of judicial review. And I have to say that we're not satisfied on those 2 points, and they do run deeply. I understand the Minister's assurances of political trust. We already commented in the first reading on the issue of trust. There's no need to repeat ourselves here. I acknowledge the good intent on the part of the government. I acknowledge the odd extravagant comment I offered at the time. I just, in lame defence, I would simply say that I was registering a point by extreme analogy. But it's all fine in the give and take, and I do acknowledge the good intent of the government in this respect. So I conclude by not addressing the government, but addressing the people of New Zealand on this bill. I make 2 points. First, that the Green Party flags for the people of New Zealand our deep concern over 2 paragraphs in this bill. Clause 6, paragraph 3, pertaining to legal immunity, which has been debated at length, and Clause 6, paragraph 4, pertaining to the lack of limitation in scope of the bill. We flag our concern on this, and we invite the people of New Zealand to watch very closely on these issues. The second point, I address the government. The government is on notice tonight to act by the standards that it has proclaimed for itself, which will from now on be the subject of arbitrary determination on their part, arbitrary political determination, rather than normal legal constraint. We shall vote for this bill, notwithstanding these very deep concerns. We do so for one reason: national cohesion in a state of extreme urgency in Christchurch. But let our support for this bill not go without an appreciation and an acknowledgement of the fundamental concerns we have pertaining to those 2 points in particular. Thank you.